Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome to Leadership Insights with me, Prashant. आप सबको मेरा प्यार भरा नमस्कार. As always, I would like to start by saying thank you to each and every one of you for the love and support that you're giving me and this show. Thank you so much for that. Now, with the promise of bringing in an interesting guest every week and sharing perspectives of leadership, वो leadership की छोटी बड़ी बातें जो leadership को important बनाती हैं और उनकी experiences से ये जानने की कोशिश कि leadership क्या है and how can we become better as leaders in life and in our profession as well. With that promise, we have another amazing guest with us today. The conversation today is going to be based on self leadership because our guest is a very firm believer in the fact that self leadership जो है, that's a foundation for people leadership. If you can't lead yourself, you can't lead others. That's why we have her on the show today so that we can dig deeper into the perspective that she has about self leadership. We will try to understand her meaning of it through her experiences, through her professional experiences of more than 15 years. So let me tell you who we have with us today. She is currently the Joint Director at FICCI, a seasoned communication professional with over 15 years of experience. She is a TEDx speaker, writer, a former journalist, and a poet as well. She is also a certified life coach, executive coach, and a trainer. So, ladies and gentlemen, without any further delay, let's welcome our guest with us today, Ankurita Pathak. Hi,
Hi,
Ankurita. A very
everyone.
good evening to you.
Hello. Very, very good evening. Namaskar to
Thank
you and to everyone.
Thank you so much, and welcome to Leadership Insights. Thank you so much for saying yes to being here. And let me tell you very honestly, and tell the guests very honestly that Ankurita and I had a conversation, a pre-show conversations that I have with my guests few days before the live show, and by far Ankurita is the most energetic person that I have come across in these 2 seasons, Ankurita. So I'm really looking forward to the energy that you will bring to this show. So thank you so much for that.
First of all, thank you, Prashant, for inviting me to your show. I have been following your show for quite a long time, and I'm glad that you invited me. And thank you for that gracious, gracious introduction and talking about the energy. I hope I can, meet up to your expectations, and I'm sure I will. I'll try my best at least.
that's that's the thing, we just have to give our best, and I think that's where I could relate a lot with you because I'm also somebody who is high energy. I'm very enthusiastic about things, about life in general, and I could relate to you in that way as well, that कि हम दोनों बहुत तरीके से similar हैं. And then we spoke about self leadership, and you said that that's something that you firmly believe in. And in yesterday's video also I mentioned that coincidentally I also am a very firm believer कि जब तक आप खुद को ठीक से लीड ना करो तो आप दूसरे लोगों को क्या खाक लीड करोगे. So that's my understanding as well, but that's me, that's Prashant's understanding, but here we are trying to understand your perspective on it. So let's start the conversation, Ankurita, by understanding the foundational belief that you have about self leadership, where you say that self leadership is a prerequisite for people leadership. So for Ankurita Pathak, what did this statement mean? Can you please tell that to us?
Yes, thank you for the question, Prashant. And before I start talking about self leadership, I just want to briefly tell about what leadership means for me. So, Prashant, whenever
Sure.
we ask anyone, or whether I ask you or you ask me, when we talk about leadership, we always think about somebody else. We think about some leader who has influenced us in some way or the other. We tell that this is the leader who I respect, this is the leader who I don't want to be like. We talk about experiences of the external experiences of somebody else whom we look up to as leader. But what about us? We don't think that we are also leaders in our own mind. It is not about the bigger things that we do. It is not about somebody leading an organization, somebody who's a CEO, somebody. It's like every one of us is a leader in our own mind. This reminds me of a statement. This is something I heard from somebody who spoke at a conference, and that leader spoke about Martin Luther King Jr. And I can't rephrase the entire quote, but the essence says that if you call upon a street sweeper to sweep a street, let that sweeper sweep like Michelangelo would have painted, or Shakespeare
Mm,
would have probably written poetry, or Beethoven would have composed music so that
Wow.
the hosts of heaven and earth could stop by and pause and say that here lived a street sweeper who did his job so well. You know, so
Wow.
be it a CEO, a middle level manager, or uh, probably a factory worker or a janitor, or anybody for that matter is leading something, and that leading is in context to the job. The person that person is leading is the self. So anybody from top to bottom is leading the self. And once you the most difficult part, Prashant, I feel, is conquering yourself. You can conquer the rest of the people, but you conquering yourself, knowing what you are, who you are, what you believe, and why you believe that, and where you are going, you know for becoming a
Mm,
leader. That aspect is so important. So leadership begins with the self. One, you need to look within. You need to there are three things that I would like to highlight here, Prashant. It is, first thing is about self awareness. As a
mm,
person, what I am, the strong set of values that I follow is the core, the foundation of my leadership style. Anybody's leadership style, anybody for that matter. Could be somebody who's teaching in schools, colleges, could be a parent. Leadership is
mm,
more like parenting. So
mm,
then comes self reflection. Every day we should take a little bit of time to reflect of what we are as a person. Only then we can be a leader in any aspect, any front. Then comes self regulation. We are self aware, we know who we are, we are reflecting on ourselves, but what about that regulation? So I think a
mm,
combination of awareness, the reflection, and regulation for the self, that's where your
mm,
the foundation of true leadership, it starts.
mm,
That's what I believe. And once you start conquering yourself, you would know that this is what I want. For example, you tell somebody that you do this work. Now, you should primarily know that why you are doing that work, what is the objective of the work, what is the goal. And if you don't have that clarity yourself, how would you lead somebody else? You should know where
mm,
you are going. How can you lead somebody when you don't even know where you are going? For example, I'm taking in your personal life, I'm going to a friend's place and I'm taking 10 friends along with me to a friend's place. If I don't even know where the friend stays, or if I don't even know the location, how would I go there? How would I reach there? Leadership is similar. It's just like that. You know the
mm,
organization goal, you know where you need to go, you know what your role is, but you don't know how to do it. So that
mm,
doing, that becoming process, it starts from yourself. This is why I so strongly believe that self leadership is important. Before leading anybody else, you lead yourself. There's so many styles of leadership, Prashant. You read about them, you identify a lot about them, but the style that you need to follow is it's your own style. It's you. Like you said, Prashant believes this, so Ankurita believes this, the same thing, but probably we reflect on this in a little different manner. Your way
mm,
of going there would be different, my way of going there would be different, but
mm,
ultimately it's a resultant of the three things: your awareness,
mm.
your reflection, and your regulation.
Very well said, Ankurita. Very, very deep thoughts that, in fact, need to be reflected on. First thing that you said was that all of us are leaders in our own right, irrespective of what we are doing. Leadership as a term has been glorified a lot, and you very rightly said, whenever we speak about leadership, and if you honestly visualize in your mind, it's not our picture that comes in mind. We have certain people who come into our mind, right? It's always somebody else. How proud should we be of ourselves, and how much should we value ourselves? How much should we look upon ourselves, that I look into the mirror and say that I'm proud of who I am a leader. And if somebody asks me, who do you look up to the most as a leader, my answer should be me. If my answer is not me, then there is requirement of deeper self awareness, deeper self reflection, and a deeper self regulation that you spoke about. कि अगर मैं खुद को ही सबसे कामयाब लीडर अपनी आंखों में नहीं समझता हूं, then others will not look at me as a leader. I need to start with myself. And another thing that you beautifully mentioned is irrespective of who I am, it's not about the title. That was also very interesting because when I speak to people, a common crisis that I see around, which I'm sure you will identify with, is that today people look at their title as their identity कि मैं कौन हूँ, मैं सीईओ हूँ, मैं कौन हूँ, मैं एक सीनियर मैनेजर हूँ, मैं कौन हूँ, अरे यार मैं तो सिर्फ एक हाउसकीपर हूँ, मैं कौन हूँ, मैं सिर्फ एक डोरमैन हूँ, right? So people look at their identity with that title that has been given to them and they get associated with that as saying that that is who I am. Now, that is not who you are. That is a role that you are playing. And I think that's a point that you are trying to put across, that irrespective of what role you are playing, if you do it and if you look at your job like Beethoven, if you look at your job like Michelangelo, if you look at your job like someone who you look up to as a leader, the only thing that they did differently, उन्होंने किया क्या, एक पेन और एक पेपर उठाया और उस पर कुछ अल्फाज ही तो लिखे, एक पेन और एक ब्रश और एक चार्ट पेपर उठाया और उसके ऊपर सिर्फ हाथ ही तो चलाया. They didn't do anything amazing, but because they loved what they did, they connected with their heart from what they did, is why it came out so beautiful. And that point also that you mentioned was beautiful, Ankurita. You want to add something?
Yeah, I just want to say that, Mahatma Gandhi or Mother Teresa or any big leader, we probably cannot become like that, but we can be the best version of ourselves in whatever we do. Anything जो भी करते हैं उसमें दिल जान, with complete soul, if you do it, you are automatically a leader. कुछ भी करो वो,
बिल्कुल,
in the
बिल्कुल.
house you lead your son, your daughter, your children, you lead your group of friends towards something. You discuss with your family towards something. You provide a solution to some problem somewhere. You probably,
Hmm.
in itself, in yourself, you are an example for somebody कि इसने ऐसे किया है, मैं भी ऐसा कर सकता हूँ, मैं भी ऐसा कर सकती हूँ, like small things. So
बिल्कुल.
it's it's not about greater things in life. I think it is smaller things that we do with a lot of love and with a lot of sincerity. That's what is the core of leadership. Leadership in context of not your title, not your position. Leadership any which ways, Prashant, is not about the um, it's not about the role. It's more about the goal, I guess. And it's also not about
Hmm.
the position. It's more about the action. It's about more about the decisions that you take as a leader. It's where
Hmm.
you kind of, you believe in something and you make people believe in that by default. You don't you do not use your legitimate position of authority that makes you a leader to, you might sit on a chair. I might respect that chair, I might not respect you as a person. It automatically your
Hmm.
leadership fails, right? So your leadership is
बिल्कुल.
only leadership only when you think that you're leading somebody well, and before leading that somebody well, you're leading yourself also well. You're leading somewhere which is, that way might not be easy, but that way would be
Hmm.
right. You would believe that it is right,
Hmm.
and that's how you probably create impact on somebody else's mind. It could be one person. That's okay.
Hmm. 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 Bilkul, and what you're saying brings me back to what you said earlier of those three very powerful points, which is self-awareness, self-reflection, and self-regulation. और बहुत बार मैंने ये नोटिस किया है कि सेल्फ अवेयरनेस इज समथिंग दैट्स अगेन बीन मार्केटेड अ लॉट फॉर अ while now. So the awareness of people about self awareness has become high. सबको पता है दैट वी नीड टू बी अवेयर, वी नीड टू बी अवेयर, नॉलेज बहुत जगहों से आ रही है. तो आई थिंक awareness is not that big a challenge anymore. It still is, but not that big. What is a bigger challenge is the next two levels. आपकी सेल्फ रिफ्लेक्शन और रेगुलेशन कैसी है, कि अवेयरनेस हो गया कि आपको पता चल गया, लेकिन पता चलने से आप क्या कर लोगे, अनलेस एंड
Yes.
अनटिल यू डू समथिंग अबाउट इट,
आप
अनलेस एंड
रिफ्लेक्ट
अनटिल
भी
यू.
कर लोगे, लेकिन आप रेगुलेट कैसे करोगे? सबसे
बिल्कुल.
क्राइसिस तो उसी में आएगा. दैट इज द बिगेस्ट चैलेंज. रेगुलेशन इज डिफिकल्ट. पर्सनली I have myself, I'm a self aware person. I reflect a lot, but it's difficult a lot of times to regulate myself. As a
Hmm.
person, as a professional, this is a challenge we face every day. But then you need to make a conscious effort to regulate your thoughts, conscious effort to align your values, your actions, and your words. Many times you hear, Prashant, I think you, me, everyone, we listen to the speeches of big leaders, or
Hmm.
probably we read some articles written by something, and automatically you get a sense of one fact, that this person is authentic or not.
Hmm.
Whenever you listen, that there's that connect that happens automatically. You
Hmm.
don't need to put an effort. you know that's where that whole self awareness, reflection, and regulation, I think it's a package. It comes together, and somebody who has mastered all three, I think we
Hmm.
as followers would connect with those leaders automatically. The other party does not need to make an effort, neither do we. That leadership is already established.
बिल्कुल. Cool. And when it comes to self-regulation, another thing that I observed, and I have also done it, and it has come through my own self-reflection with over the years, that मैं भी बहुत बार ऐसा करता हूँ that when we learn something, when we get to know about something, we reflect on it and then we accept it, saying that कि हाँ यार, I think this makes sense, and then we immediately try to apply it on others. So just awareness and reflection itself makes us feel ki I am already that person because I saw this video. I have that trait in me now. Now I need to go and tell other people कि ऐसे मत करो, ऐसे मत करो, ऐसे मत करो. And that is where a lot of things happen. And that's where when you speak about self leadership, कि अगर आप वो इंसान खुद नहीं बनते हो, like how you said earlier, that if you do not know the way, if you haven't gone to that destination, then you can't take other people to that destination because you haven't been there. So it's very important कि आप सेल्फ रेगुलेशन वाले एस्पेक्ट को भी सेल्फ लीडरशिप पे मास्टरी उसमें हासिल करो. अगर मास्टरी नहीं तो एटलीस्ट उस पाथ पे चलना शुरू करो. Is when you have the right to actually help others or tell others about things that you have applied. Does this make sense?
Absolutely. See, what happens with me, and this is from personal experience, I would say that suppose I start my day in a wrong note, okay, and I'm a little not in the right frame of mind. I go to office, I talk to a colleague, or I'm working with a colleague, and I lose my calm, and I react in a manner which I don't check myself, and I react in a very impulsive and in a very not a kind of a professional manner. Now, tomorrow, if my colleague also behaves like the similar way, I have no right to
Hmm.
tell that person that no, no, you should have controlled yourself. First, I need to
Hmm.
apply it on myself. In such a
Hmm.
situation, how resilient I am, how adaptable
Hmm.
I am, how calm I can keep. I have to work on myself. You know,
Hmm.
as leader or as a person. Sometimes, the problem that happens with us is we dissociate with the two things: personality as a person that you are, as a leader that you are. At home you are a happy-go-lucky person, you go to office, you sit in that kursi, and you become suddenly uptight, and you
Hmm.
realize that you are sitting in a chair, and this chair gives you that authority, ab to sabko meri baat manni hi padegi. No, that doesn't work like that.
Hmm.
सबने सुन भी लिया, but that person will never talk about you. If I remember that, okay, somebody is a good leader, I would remember that person for the person that person is, or how the person has conducted himself in that chair or herself in that chair. It's
Hmm.
not about the position in itself. It's about how you regulate yourself, how you conduct yourself while sitting in that position. How much do you walk that talk? How much do you suppose, for example, a leader is talking about the importance of skilling, upskilling, reskilling, and all of that in their speeches or their
Hmm.
articles or wherever. As a leader, somebody is talking about that. But when somebody in your own organization or somebody whom you work with is suppose doing something to upskill yourself, how much are you
Hmm.
encouraging that person to do that? How much are you actually
Hmm.
hand holding that person? How much are you actually
Hmm.
guiding, or how much are you showing a way that this is how it needs to be done? You talk something and you walk in a different way, your leadership fails right there. So,
बिल्कुल.
whenever you say something, you should know that you are saying that for a reason. You should
Hmm.
believe in what you say. Only when you believe in what you say, that's what I said. That leadership is not about being. I mean, it's not an easy thing. It cannot come to you
Hmm.
easily. It is something. Sometimes it is difficult. But when you realize that, okay, this is something I believe. For something you might have to fight against a force, or you might have to fight against an authority. But if you believe that this
Hmm.
thing is right, then you create your own path, and in that path I think you will get your own followers. Then you don't have to make an effort to become a leader. You become a leader by your action, by your thoughts, because your thoughts are in alignment with your action.
That's very interesting that you said leadership is not about position, it's about the actions that you take. And when you believe in something and you know that is the right thing to do, you stick to that path. There might be certain fights that you will have to fight, but in that course, when you are fighting, you will not be alone. There will be others who will believe in what you are believing, and they will follow you, and that itself makes you a leader. And you will bring in the change that you are looking in to bring, because you stuck
And
to things that are
on a lighter note, yesterday I saw a meme on Instagram, and it says that, आप हो, आप इंसान हो, आप सफाई हर किसी को मत दो, आप डिटर्जेंट पाउडर नहीं हो. And other one says that आप हो, आप पिज्जा नहीं हो, या आप मोमोज नहीं हो कि आप सबको खुश कर पाओ. So in leadership also, you don't have to
बिल्कुल
always be a
बिल्कुल.
pleaser. You don't have to tell that yes, yes, this is correct, or you have to be assertive, you have to be authentic, you have to be believing in that thing, and you have to be having that empathy, that empathy for people. See, perfection, everybody tries to be a very perfect leader. Leadership comes with a lot of glamour, and they feel that, this is how we should conduct themselves. Leadership, they think that there's a strategy to be followed, that this is the strategy I will follow, and this is how I will establish myself as a leader. But I don't think it works like that. It is about it is about how human you are. It is, we are not talking here about Spider-Mans or Supermans or Ironmans, with superpowers. We're talking about human beings. As leaders also, when somebody accept that yes, this is a flaw that I have, this is a mistake that I have committed, there's no harm in that. You automatically, you elevate yourself as a human leader, and people would connect with you. That's what I feel differentiates between leaders. And some people create a mark on your life, on your thoughts, on your belief systems. And when you look up to those leaders who are actually doing what they believe, who are actually following what they talk, who are actually setting up those standards, who are actually, those things really are heartwarming. I think the small things would make big difference in the world, big difference in the society. It's not about like great steps that you take. It's not about massive decisions that you take. Little small things that will make a lot of difference. In you start from your own little group. Build it up to your bigger groups, then the organization, then probably the community, the society. I mean, this is how it goes.
Bilkul. And again, a coincidence. If you look at the tagline of the show, it says little things about leadership that matter the most. So we are talking about the little things that matter the most. क्योंकि बड़ी
It
बड़ी
is
बातें तो बहुत
always
लोग
the
करते हैं.
little things that
It's
matter,
about
I
these
guess.
little things, and they're the ones that get ignored the most, because everybody is going behind the glitz and glamour of the big things about leadership. जहाँ जो basic foundation है, जिसके ऊपर आप वो building बनाने की सोच रहे हो, when that foundation itself is cracked or missing, how will you build those floors? Even if you are able to build them, they will fall sooner or later. You will not be able to keep them up. And what you said also reminds me a couple of things that my leader had told me. I remember in my conversation when I was getting promoted to become a leader for the very first time. A couple of things that he said, which I remember now. He said, one, he said, Prashant, whenever you are with your team, and whenever something goes wrong, and if you feel that you messed up, and it was you, and your people know it, it's not that they don't know it, they just don't say it because you are their leader, so they will never say it. So you need to always have that courage to raise your hand with your team in your team meeting and tell them that I screwed up. And when you raise that hand and say I screwed up, and immediately follow it up with that question saying, how do we fix it now? When you do this, you teach them to take accountability for their mistakes. You teach them that it's okay to take mistakes, but you also teach them that whenever we make a mistake, we announce it to our group of people, which is our team, and we ask them how can we fix it, so that everybody collaborates and tries to fix that mistake. That's why you bring everybody together. So you're sharing your successes and you're sharing the failures as well. Another thing that he said was that, never ever hesitate to say I don't know. Like there shouldn't even be an hesitation, because people will expect. The definition of leadership ऐसा है कि people expect that you will have the answers. That is the expectation because that's it's how it's been sold as an idea for so many years. But now the truth is that you are not that person who has all the knowledge because knowledge is so widespread कि सब लोगों को सब कुछ पता है और बहुत लोगों को आपसे ज़्यादा पता रहेगा most of the times. And that is the kind of people that you should hire. So the times when you do not know, again have the courage to raise your hand and say, I don't know, and be okay with it. No sense of shame, no sense of guilt. Just say it that I don't know. And then ask them, how do we find the answers that we don't have the answers right now? Again, you're bringing in a sense of collaboration. You're teaching your people that it's all right to not know, but it needs to be followed up with an effort as a team to find those answers. तो ये एक दो चीजें ना मेरे दिमाग में हमेशा रह गई, मैंने अपने बुक में भी इनके
This
बारे
is
में लिखा था.
something I so identify with you, Prashant. It's giving me a sense of deja vu, little while back, I mean, a few days back, I had a discussion with my team leader also about the same thing, that you have a team and somebody is leading the team. The leader is supposed to have solutions to problems, but you have a team also. Everybody comes with an USP, everybody comes with a forte that they have developed over the period of time. I might be good at something, the other team member could be good at something, the third member could be good at something. The idea for the leader is to take all the pieces of that board and bring them together with their, that's where I think the personal values come in, how you bring
बिल्कुल.
all of this together. You don't, maybe you don't have this knowledge that A has, you don't have the knowledge that B has, you don't have the knowledge that C has, but you have that art of bringing A, B, C together and creating that whole structure, which ultimately makes you the leader. And here I'm reminded of I think it's a Chinese proverb. Uh, not sure, but I think it's a Chinese proverb. It says that, you give a fish to a person, the person can eat for the day. But if you teach fishing to that person, you give them their livelihood, you give them fish for every day. What I mean to say
बिल्कुल.
is that you
Yeah.
might not have the knowledge of a particular thing. You kind of, the other person might have a particular knowledge, but you're giving that person an opportunity to learn from that knowledge, grow from that knowledge. You also learn from that person. It's the whole collaboration, the power of togetherness that you create. you know
Hmm.
that's what makes you a true leader. That's how, what,
बिल्कुल.
you're enabling, you're not just enabling yourself to grow. Learning is unlimited, it cannot be
Hmm.
exhaustive, you cannot have everything. But you're
Hmm.
open to new things, you want to learn more, which is, I mean, good enough for you. You're willing to
बिल्कुल.
learn. ऐसा नहीं है कि हमको सब कुछ आता है. ऐसा होगा कि somebody else is bringing the other knowledge. You are accepting it, you are embracing it, and you are happy about the fact that you're working with a bunch of people who come with different knowledge. There's no
Hmm.
insecurity in this. There is no competition in this. That's what teams are for. Everybody, सबको अगर सब कुछ आता है तो मजा ही क्या आएगा. you
बिल्कुल.
know
बिल्कुल. और वो पॉसिबल भी नहीं है ना.
आपके लिए भी
Imagine the
सीखने को कुछ
difficulty
नहीं
of
होगा.
life if everybody has to know everything.
Yeah, yeah. And it will be no fun. कि
बिल्कुल.
उनको भी आता है, उसको भी आता है, सब कुछ को मतलब सबको सब कुछ आता है. तो this will be like one hell of a chaos.
Absolutely. Bilkul. Bilkul. It's like, if you look at a team, if everybody or 11 people in a cricket team are excellent batsmen, who will bowl? Who will field? अगर सचिन तेंदुलकर ही 11 है, सौरव गांगुली ही 11 है, विराट कोहली ही 11 है, तो बाकी चीजों का क्या होगा?
Exactly,
Right? So
exactly.
it will be like that. We need to have, I think, what you said earlier can be summed up saying that a leader, I think today, has to be a facilitator and a coach. A leader should be aware कि उसकी टीम की स्ट्रेंथ्स क्या है, उसकी टीम की वीकनेसेस क्या है, and how does he facilitate that entire thing together and bring them together as a strong team. Might not be as a strong individual, but as a strong team they are able to move forward as a force. I think that is a skill that leaders need to develop, is what you're trying to say. And you also spoke about empowerment. When you gave an example of that proverb, when you're teaching people, you give them a fish. Yes, maybe sometimes you need to give them a fish because the situation is such, but that should not be a daily practice. If you teach them how to fish, then they learn how to fish and they can actually provide livelihood and they can teach somebody else. So it's a skill that you are passing on to people, and it's just going as chain. So there are so many people around who will be able to feed themselves and who will be able to teach others how to feed themselves. So that skill of empowerment comes. So coming back to our conversation on self-leadership, Ankurita, and there is a comment here also which says, Suresh Chandra says, leading myself is more difficult than leading others. And there is a question mark with that. So, Suresh, if you have anything specific in terms of questions, it would be great if you could please mention that in comments and we'll pick it up. But yes, we understand what you're trying to say.
Prashant, I
Leading
want to say
ourselves.
who's Suresh sir is. He is one of the most experienced trainers and coaches I know. He is. I
Wonderful.
really look up to him. He has like over 3 decades of experience in training, in coaching. And only yesterday evening we had a session with him as a speaker, and he spoke about leadership. And I so identify with what sir says. And when I mean, I'm happy that he's watching this show, and I'm really glad that sir is here. And sir, thank you for saying that. Yes, of course, leading the self is the most difficult part. That's what Greek philosopher Socrates has said. That conquering the self, it's the biggest fight, it's the biggest battle. And you can
Hmm.
conquer somebody else with a lot of authority, or by dint of the position that you are, or you are engaging in warfare kind of a thing. You conquer people, but you don't conquer yourself. When you conquer yourself, I think the most important fight of your life is uh, over. So yes sir, you're right. Leading the self is the most difficult part than leading others. Leading others is way easier.
Great. So, Ankurita, this moves our conversation into a solution orientation mode now, which means we have established the fact that self leadership is very important. We have established the fact that we need to be sure of who we are and look ourselves as leaders, irrespective of us holding the title of leadership or not. We have established the fact that self awareness, self reflection, and self regulation are keys to be a self leader and look up at yourself as a leader. We have also established the fact that conquering ourselves is the real battle that we need to win and not conquering others. And that battle is difficult. And Mr. Suresh is also acknowledging that fact with his experience that yes, conquering self is uh, much difficult, but much more important than conquering
Needed.
others or
Yes.
leading others. Now, let's move to the solution orientation and try to understand if you, from your experience or personal and professional experiences, had to give us certain principles, saying that Prashant, many experiences say if you follow these few things, they will help you become a better people leader or a self leader. What would those things be?
Firstly, I think integrity. That is the first thing that is important for me. If you
Mhm.
have that integrity, you have your value system is oriented. I mean, it's in sync with what you are doing. You know that you have that sincerity of thoughts, of action, of intention. That integrity is very very important. um, Second, I believe confidence. You should be
Mhm.
confident enough. You should have confidence enough to lead yourself to that path of what I spoke in the first segment, from starting from self awareness to self reflection to self regulation. What
Mhm.
you are, who you are, where you're going. If you have that confidence, if you know, you may have flaws, you may falter in your path, but if you have that confidence that you will go on, you will learn, you will consciously make an effort to do things which will align uh, your words, your thoughts with your actions. I think that confidence matters a lot. Third, I
Mhm.
believe empathy. Without empathy, no leadership will be successful. It's just not about leadership. It's, I think, every person should be empathetic enough. And then that's also a little bit tricky, Prashant, because sometimes when you are empathetic, people might consider you as that bit weak. But I
Mhm.
that empathy is not, you're being kind, you're being empathetic, you're being understanding of somebody's situation, is not being weak. You should be empathetic yet assertive in your way. And
Mhm.
uh, here again I'm reminded of the quote, I think in one of I think it was Nelson Mandela's peace summit that Jacinda Ardern, she had mentioned that, being kind is considered, weakness as a leader, but you are a kind leader. I mean, she is a kind leader. I find her very empathetic leader. She's a very people's person. If you see, uh, by default, she has a persona, and for the matter, Michelle Obama also. They laugh at their own flaws at times. They accept the fact that they're not perfect people. But the way they
Mm,
conduct themselves, you automatically start respecting them as leaders. So
mm.
this 3 points. First is integrity. Second, I talked about
Confidence.
confidence, and then empathy. Then I think communication is very, very important. The way I
Mm,
think it is the basic of how you conduct. Communication, positive communication, I would say, how you can communicate with people, because you may have that good heart and you may have that awareness, you may have been able to regulate yourself, but what about you, how you put across those thoughts, how you put across your thoughts into actions. Communication is very basic. And I
mm,
think gratitude, Prashant, for everybody who's you are working with, who is around you. Uh, it starts from your own house, your daily helps that come to help you. If you don't take people for granted, that we're paying them, so they are supposed to work for you. It doesn't happen like that. They
mm,
it might be like कि खाना बना दिया, but उन्होंने वो खाना आपको खाने पसंद नहीं आया. It's like that. You are working for an organization. If that organization does not value you as
mm,
human resources, as assets of that organization, have no gratitude for you as a person, any leader,
mm,
okay, I'm a leader, I'm in this position, I'm in this authority, so you are supposed to work for me. That doesn't
mm,
happen. I will work for you, or you will work for me, but the work will not be as productive, as good. But if you see
mm,
that you have that gratitude, okay, a little smile, a little thank you, or that connect, and telling them that yes, this is good work that you have done. Or you can start with by telling them positive things, that yes, this is something that you have done for us, I'm grateful for that. You can do this in a better way, this is how I would have done this.
mm.
Probably that gratitude is very, very important, Prashant. These are the 5 elements that I think these are primary things in leadership. But the rest of the things are incidental. Those will come into it. You
Mm,
strategize, how you lead, decision making, the power of leading. All of this is all are incidental. But if you have integrity, if you have that confidence, if you have that empathy, and if you have the way you communicate with clarity, with empathy, with
mm.
understanding, I think this matters a lot. And gratitude for sure. I mean, wherever you are, if you are not grateful about things, whoever does it for you will not consider you a good leader that you are.
Bilkul. And 5 very powerful points that you mentioned. And I like the fact that everything else is also important, but that is incidental. If these 5 values are integrated, and if we learn the art of awareness, reflection, and regulation around these 5 values, and if we're able to integrate them together, I think we as self leaders become very important and become very efficient, and it will show up in our people leadership skills as well. Now, a couple of elements which are not spoken about a lot, which I would like to emphasize on and talk about. At least in my show, we haven't emphasized too much on it. We have spoken about integrity many times. We have spoken about confidence. We have spoken about, we haven't spoken about a lot in terms of communication and gratitude. So let's talk about communication and gratitude a little more. So when it comes to communication, Ankurita, and how do you think this skill is important? I understand that you mentioned communicate with clarity. So let's expand a little on that, and try to understand communication from a leadership point of view. Why do you think it's that important? And how do I as a leader, if I'm listening to you and I'm asking you, okay, Ankurita, tell me how is it important, and then also tell me how do I get better at it so that I'm able to lead better, what would you say?
Again, I'll come back to reflection. Take time to reflect who you are and what you want to communicate, and that will give you clarity. When you reflect on what you need to communicate, the clarity will come. Once you have clarity, you will know that this is how you need to communicate. And again, your core values will result in clear communication. And how you are as a person, it reflects on communications. And since communication is basic, you
Hmm.
working on yourself is important. Today, uh, for example, I write an email to you, and
Hmm.
I am not in the right frame of my mind. I'm annoyed at you for something, that you have not done properly in the work. And how am I supposed to write to you that, for example, in a meeting, and you're not attentive to the meeting, you're probably multitasking, chatting or something. So now if I tell you that, Prashant, in the next meeting, don't multitask, you know so but I can tell you, this will probably create that gap between you
Hmm.
and me, and you will probably not get the message. I'm talking something which is relevant, which is some important, because you should be focused on that meeting, only then we can work further. But the way I
Hmm.
communicate, suppose instead of that I tell you that, okay, Prashant, next time please make sure that you smile at your client and you focus on what he's saying, or you try and understand, or can you help me in what he said, or can you tell me how we can take this forward. I think that, you see the difference. The first
Yes.
one will make you feel that, okay, somebody is instructing in a
Hmm.
way that probably acha theek hai dekh lenge, but somebody is telling
Hmm.
you, involving in that conversation, and you also realize that, okay, I was not attentive and I need to
Hmm.
be attentive in this. Next time you will also ensure that you give full focus on it. You are
Hmm.
involved in the whole process, and you realize that the person is expecting a feedback from you, expecting you to be involved in this, and a person is telling you that, you guide me how to take this forward, and you get that
Hmm.
message that this is a positive feedback. So
Hmm.
that's where I think communication becomes very basic. Your message may be same, but the way
Hmm.
you communicate, again, I think the person, the whole how you are as a person is also reflecting in your communication. Many times it happens with me that, okay, I'm miffed at a particular XYZ for particular XYZ reason. And it happens to me a lot that, okay, now I'm angry, so I'm writing an email and I will write this. But if you look at it after 10 minutes or 15
Hmm.
minutes, you take the breathers, step back, and you realize that probably you would have committed a grave mistake.
Hmm.
And automatically you'll see that your frame of mind, your thought process, everything shifts to a more constructive, more positive. Then you will automatically you'll reflect that this is how probably I can communicate, this is how I can tell.
Hmm.
Your objective or your intent might be correct, but your message
Hmm.
might go across as something which is not reaching to the person in the right way. It might create
Hmm.
a gap between you and the person, and the whole collaboration, the whole team spirit, or whole co-working thing, it'll fall flat. That's why communication, I said that it's basic. It's the core of how you communicate. I might know this, I might be aware of all of this, I might be aware of me as a person, my style of leadership, or what I want to do, what my objective is. I might have grand plans for everything, but if I'm
Hmm.
unable to put it across, I mean, many times it happens that you want to say something, but you probably did not use the right way to say it. It's all how it
Hmm.
comes across to you. It happens. It's natural for us, and
Hmm.
and there's a way how to mitigate that. As you said, it's acceptance. You tell that, okay, this is not what I meant, but it
Hmm.
could work. Sometimes it could not work. So before the
Hmm.
disaster happens, why don't you sit and reflect, and you take a step back, or probably take a breather, and then you frame that whole thing in a different way.
Hmm.
Communication, you might know how to write an email correctly, but again, your situation might create that kind of an environment where we are probably not communicating in the correct manner.
Hmm.
I hope I'm making some sense of it. I have so
You are,
much.
Ankurita, and what you're saying is so powerful because you combined communication in terms of what we say, be it written or be it verbal, and the power of reflection that comes into it, which means there are times when we communicate by instinct, which means this is what I feel needs to be said in this moment, but that might not be conveyed in the way that you intended it to convey, because the other person listens it from their perspective, their point of view, not from your point of view, right? You might not have the intent of hurting the other person, you might not have the intent of making them feel less about themselves, but that is what it is doing. So I think what I'll take from the conversation that we had in the last few minutes is that communication and reflection are very powerful when combined together. The power of pausing and reflecting on not what you are communicating, more than that, how are you communicating it? What are the words that you're using? What is the tone of the message? Not what you are using, what the other person will hear. I think that is where self awareness and reflection comes into picture, where you're able to listen to your message from others' point of view. कि मैंने ये बोल दिया लेकिन उसको ये ऐसे ही सुनाई देगा या इसमें ऐसा कुछ है in words and tone where that person will not get the message the way I intend it to go across. I think that is where that power of pause where you mentioned, and I could see your body language. You even went back a little, which shows pause. कि आपने एक email लिख दिया है, and then you just go back a little and just relax for a minute and look at it again from a fresh perspective. कि क्या ये मैसेज वहीं जा रहा है जो मैं देना चाहता हूँ. और इफ यू आर इन अ मीटिंग एंड यू सी somebody who is not attentive, if you see somebody who is not doing things that are supposed to happen in a meeting, instinct might be saying that, okay, listen to me, did you hear this, why are you doing this, why are you not doing that, keep your phone down. It might be to give an instruction because your authority probably tells you कि आप ऐसा कर सकते हो, right? You're allowed to do that, but that is not the right way to communicate to that person. And again, coming back to जो आपने कहा, which was very powerful, was that communication needs to be like a journey. You need to include, the word that you used is include the other person in the conversation, which means if you're giving an instruction, you're not involving them in the conversation. Instruction is a one way thing. But if it is a two-way thing, then you actually explain what is happening. You give the context behind what you're trying to say. And then it becomes two-way. और जब भी कोई इंसान कॉन्टेक्स्ट देता है कम्युनिकेट करते हुए, आई थिंक इट्स नेचुरल फॉर अस to accept that, or at least question and try to understand it more, because then it's a conversation. So what you said is very powerful. I think everybody who is listening needs to reflect on the power of self reflection in communication, be it written communication or be it verbal communication. And I think we have also answered a question that's come to us here, where Mona Lisa says how to maintain an ideal email etiquette when you're not super happy with your employees. Anything that you would like to add more than what we discussed?
Yeah, I think the same, whatever, I think I already have answered this question, but I would want to say, Mona Lisa, it's a very thin line of demarcation when we are expressing our unhappiness to an employee and how we are, expressing our angst at that. Again dissociate ourselves from professionally how to respond to this situation and how personally we would respond to this situation. Anger is it's so impulsive. You are so volatile at the situation that you tend to be instructive. You try to tell them that this is, I feel that this is not correct what you have done.
Mhm.
But instead, again, if we take a little bit time and understand that whatever the situation that person was in, why that person was not able to give you the work properly, if at all we can build establish that rapport and understand, again here empathy comes in. Probably
बिल्कुल.
there's a situation behind this, that why this employee is not doing this perfectly. So had it been, probably if in my situation, I would have probably asked that person कि क्या हुआ,
हम्म,
why this
हम्म,
work is not properly done. You understand that probably there could be a situation, a story why that thing has not
हम्म,
been done. You probably give another chance to that person. Or at all this is something you feel that this is happening every time, or it's something that's a deliberate act. Probably you sit back and understand why that person is behaving. There will be something
हम्म,
behind that story. Every person who comes to a work will come with an intent of working, but then where is that gap happening? Where is it because of the personal problem of that person, or something that the person is in that situation where in the office that something is not right for him or her. You get to that story, and then you can devise your communication strategy, whether you need to be assertive, whether you need to be communicative, whether you need to be empathetic. You mix all of this and you try to create a solution. Instead of you giving a solution, maybe you ask that person, what do you think you can do to make your work better?
हम्म,
Everybody would want to work better. Probably the situation that is emerging is not allowing that person. You have to look at all the sides. Anger is very easy. It comes like, for me, personally speaking, I get angry. I feel that, okay, if I would have done this job, probably I would have done it the best, but this is not how it.
Mm,
But probably my perspective is wrong. Many a time it happens and my perspective is wrong. I look at it in a different angle and I think this is the best angle. The other person might look at it in a different way. So these are all, very very difficult situations, but how you again maneuver through such situation is how you emerge, how you evolve as a leader, not just as a leader, I think as a person also. You don't have to be a leader to deal with such situations. You can deal, you can be an any normal human being while you handle such a situation, I guess. Again, reflection. You reflect onto the situation. That's what I think is.
Because and what I love about this conversation, Ankurita, is how it's becoming so evident what you said earlier, that everything else is incidental. Now, in your conversation, I can see, even when you answered this question, uh, communication cannot happen effectively if you don't have empathy in it. If you don't empathize with that person, you will not be able to communicate effectively. If you're somebody who is not confident, then you will not have the courage to actually take that step to empathize with the other person and communicate with that person. If you don't have a sense of gratitude towards your people who are working for you, who are in your team, who are around you, then you will probably not make that effort to communicate with empathy. If you're not a person of integrity, then you will do none of these, because you're not a person of integrity. So I was just thinking कि आप जो बोल रहे हो उसमें जो 5 points that you mentioned, how are they beautifully connecting with each other, that they cannot work without each other. You cannot have one standalone कि ठीक है, forget these four, you take care of communication and that will do the job. You will not be effective at it जब तक बाकी चार ना हो. You
नहीं
cannot
आएंगे.
be a person of integrity जब तक चार ना हो. You cannot have that confidence जब तक बाकी चार ना हो. So I think they are so related to each other to be most effective in their way. I think that's what I was thinking जब आप बोल रहे थे कि ना कि वो connection कैसे बन रहा है पांचों चीजों के साथ. So
Also
that
क्या
was
होता है प्रशांत, बहुत I mean, it's not about communication is not about knowing how well you know how to write or how well you know how to speak. It's not about how much English you know or any language that you know. It's about how you use that power of language to communicate with that impact, with the impact that you want to create. You want to rectify something, or you want to meet an objective, or you want to meet a goal. You basically all these are so intersectional. Again, it comes back to self. It all
बिल्कुल
starts from you. It ends in whatever is external, but that external again comes back to you only.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल absolutely. And again, Kavindra has mentioned an interesting comment saying, in communication, what you communicate is important, but more important is how you communicate it. So right. So he's acknowledging the conversation that we had, where that how is more important than what. Like how you now said, it's not the language, it's about the intent that you have behind it. It's about the tone that you use in that communication, be it in written communication or verbal communication. It's about the empathy that you have for the other person to understand the situation before you communicate. So I'm
It's just
glad we're
like,
having this
when
conversation.
we morning, if we go, I mean, in your work life, if you receive an email saying that, these are your to-do lists, we have to do this, blah 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 blah, and instead, if we get a email saying that, okay, hello, good morning, looking forward to see you at work, and let's discuss about this and find the solution to this, it is more, you feel that whole different kind of a motivation when you look at
बिल्कुल
that email, and then the other email would have been so different, and then you go with an intention कि अच्छा ठीक है, आज यही टू डू लिस्ट आया है, यही करेंगे. But when you are more involved, the whole, you see, art of
हम्म,
communication is such that कुछ word सेम ही word use कर रहे हैं, हम वही to do list लिख रहे हैं, उसमें भी वही to do list लिख रहे हैं, but the way it is conveyed and the way this is conveyed, the difference lies there. It
बिल्कुल
just kicks you off in a different situation.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल. And when we speak about communication, another element that I very very strongly believe is becoming a skill that is almost like a lost skill, but which needs so much attention, is the skill of listening. आई थिंक दैट्स मतलब सुनने में क्या लगता है कि सिर्फ सुनने की बात कर रहा है, ये सेइंग कि सुनना एक स्किल है. But honest listening, being present in that moment, I think that also is a very important part of communication as a leader, and irrespective of you being in a leadership role or not? What do you think?
I mean, I can't agree more, Prashant. In the pre-shoot conversation, also, I think we spoke about this. Listening is something, a skill which is so important, and this is one of the biggest flaws that I also have, because I feel that I need to speak, I have
Mm,
this thing in mind, I need to convey. But actual communication happens when you listen, and this I
mm,
have learned over the period of time, and I think when self-reflecting a lot of time I find that listening is one pertinent thing which create the difference.
mm,
I heard you but I have not listened to you, and that whole
mm,
message gets uh, communicated in a wrong way. So hearing something and listening, that art of listening, and right, so rightly you have said, it is so important. We jump, we act, we think before actually listening, and it
mm,
makes a lot of difference. The more we listen, it listening only will add up to the knowledge that you have. It will only enhance your self reflection process. It will only enhance, and again that will come consciously when you regulate. And Prashant, honest confession, I'm trying to work hard on this power of listening, art of listening, and I think I will get better, and I'm consciously making an effort to regulate it,
mm,
because a lot of time the message that is as I said again, communication between people is the core of any relationship, professional, personal. So when you don't listen, you fail to understand that whole message that is communicated. And when you fail
mm,
to understand that message that is communicated, the whole process of that, the whole objective of that relationship goes haywire. So it's very
mm.
important, very important. Ask me about it. I vouch for it that it is important. Many a time miscommunication only happens because you don't listen. And I'm working on it,
Mm.
and I think everybody should work on it. It should be from the self awareness to the reflection to the regulation. I think it is important, and you cultivate this art of listening.
Bilkul. And again, it's about awareness is what I feel, and it's our responsibility as people who are in the profession of creating awareness to start creating awareness about these things. Because for years, I'm sure there are a lot of people who are talking about, do you want to be a public speaker? Speaking, speaking in public is the second most feared thing after death. तो स्पीकिंग के बारे में ना बहुत प्रोपागेंडा हो गया, एंड इज इट इम्पोर्टेंट? आई टोटली बिलीव इट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, नो डाउट्स इन दैट. लेकिन लिसनिंग के बारे में कोई बात नहीं कर रहा है कि भाई आप सुनोगे नहीं तो बोलोगे क्या.
बोलोगे
Somebody
क्या?
has said that, if you don't listen well, you will only say what you know, but if you listen well, your knowledge will increase, so you will even speak well. तो तभी बोलते हैं ना, दो कान और एक मुंह भगवान ने सोच समझ के ही दिया है, नहीं तो दो मुंह और एक कान दे देता ना. So that you can listen better and you can speak better if you listen better. I think it's our responsibility as whatever position we hold or whatever journey and mission we are on, to build that awareness around listening, that how important it
So
is
true.
as a life
Yes.
skill and also as a leadership skill. तो अभी ग्रैटिट्यूड के बारे में बात करते हैं. आपका जो लास्ट पॉइंट था, नाउ the question in my mind right now, if I'm listening to you, is saying that I agree to these points. Now, how do I become more grateful? When you talk about leadership and you talk about gratitude, if you have to just tell me कि मैं क्या करूं जिससे मैं और grateful बन सकता हूं, how do I cultivate that gratitude in me?
For that, I would share with you my own journey. So challenges, setbacks, and failures in our life it's a part of life, right? You agree, Prashant? This is with everyone, from any position that you are in, any place that you are in. Challenges, setbacks, all of these are inevitable, and there are times when you feel that life has uh, more hardships than achievements or success or the brighter. But if you consciously every day make an effort to create a list of things that are in your life for which you feel grateful about, and you would
Hmm.
see this is like a magic trick. You will see that there are so many things that you at one point of time, this was an exercise in one of the sessions that we had, and we had to write list, and वो list खत्म ही नहीं होती थी. अरे एक दो चार पाँच 50 हो जाते थे, and you'll have so many things that you'll feel grateful about. And just because you have so many
Hmm.
things to be grateful about, your life is what it is, you are what you are. And we only, as humans, we only tend to think of the negatives. Whatever the positives are, we fail to reflect on that. we so focus on the black dot, we don't see the whiter part of it, you
Good,
know.
good.
And it's the bigger picture. We see that small black dot, and the more
Mm,
we consciously look at whatever things that, for example, in professional life, there's an employee or there's a colleague, there's a co-worker, or anybody for that matter, maybe a vendor or any stakeholder, you feel that the person is not probably in aligned, in sync to what you are expecting from that person. But there
mm,
is definitely something, Prashant, in that person that brings positivity in your uh, environment, in your professional environment,
mm,
or it happens the same in a personal life also. But we tend to look only in the negative elements, and we get stuck there. And it is okay to look at the negative elements because you need to rectify those, but the crisis
mm,
happens when you stay there, you know. And
mm,
our problem is that we stay there and we fail to acknowledge the things which are better. It happens
mm,
in our personal life, it happens in our professional lives. Again, it comes back to the self. How, what is your
mm,
outlook? If you look at everything negatively, you will have nothing to be grateful
mm,
about. But this is a
mm.
power that has been bestowed upon you to be grateful.
Mm.
Once you're grateful, you open up space for more to come. You know, your life will be abandoned. I mean, I think हम लोग अगर फोकस करेंगे कि ये थोड़ा थोड़ा है, देन योर हमारा लाइफ इसी में कन्फाइंड होके रह जाएगा. बट इफ वी
Mm,
आर ग्रेटफुल अबाउट थिंग्स दैट वी हैव, it will open
mm,
doorways for more to come. Your life will be transformed into abundance of whatever you have. That's what I
बिल्कुल.
firmly believe. And ये मेरे साथ बहुत होता है कि I get very bogged down by certain situations, certain probably something that is not going in my way. But I tend to look at things जो है मेरे पास, और
Mm,
it makes way for more to come. फिर, you know, it is like some kind of universal connection, some energy that happens, that you know
mm.
that uh, there's more to happen. इसमें इसमें कुछ है जो अच्छा होएगा. अभी नहीं हो रहा है, but होगा अभी. Uh, I think that makes the difference.
Bilkul, and the energy that you spoke about, I'm also a very firm believer in that, and I've also experienced the power of gratitude over the years. And when you look at things that you have, it opens up space for more to come your way, and I've experienced this in multiple ways. And talking about people leadership, a lot of times we look at people, and even when there are feedback sessions, the feedback sessions are all about कि तुमने ये नहीं किया या तुम ये सुधार सकते हो, तुमको इस पे काम करने की जरूरत है. It's also to tell people what we are grateful for. And I'm like, hi Ankurita, we're meeting after a month. There's a few things that I want to start with by saying thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for being this kind of a person. Thank you for bringing this to the team. Thank you for bringing this. Start with that acknowledgement of being grateful to that person as an appreciation, and then move on to things which they can improve on. जो आपने analogy दिया white board और black dot का, that is so beautiful. That we get so focused कि वो black dot है वहाँ पे और उसी के ऊपर पूरा ध्यान जा रहा है, that we do not see that entire board that is around it, which is white and which we need to be grateful for. So I think as a leader, it's very important to do that. And one thing that I've also noticed, Ankurita, and share your perspective on it is, I have noticed that people who are not grateful generally externally are also very ungrateful towards themselves, which means they're not just ungrateful towards others, they're also ungrateful towards themselves. तो वो खुद की जिंदगी, they're also being not good to themselves. So if you're somebody who wants to just love yourself very well, you have to become grateful to yourself, and it will show up with others as well. Have you noticed something like this?
I have noticed it almost every time. You know, it is like a cage that you create for yourself. A simple thing,
Mm,
I would say. Suppose आपको एक art आता है. Suppose you are very good at Excel sheets. You know, I'm just giving an example. And आप अपने वो अपना एक टैलेंट बना के रखा कि मेरे को ये I will be indispensable because I have this art. But you're
mm,
not, you don't want to give that art, you don't want to teach that to somebody else because आपका जो
mm,
वैल्यू है वो खत्म हो जाएगा. Okay.
mm,
आप आप अपने लिए भी वो एक ऐसा केज क्रिएट कर रहे हो बिकॉज यू आर
mm,
क्रिएटिंग समथिंग, यू आर नॉट willing to go beyond that. Why not you
mm.
create some other skill, you upskill yourself and create something, and then you pay it forward and you teach it to somebody else. You
Cool.
know, you in the process you are not just being grateful to yourself that I am doing something which is being value added to somebody else's life,
Mm,
also to my own life by way of
mm,
leading the way, you know. So just
mm,
a small example that I wanted to share
mm,
about you know, being grateful towards yourself and being grateful towards others, and by not allowing you to open up that you know, collaboration, you are not being
mm.
grateful to yourself also. You are keeping that
Cool.
whole art अपने आप पे आपने सीमित करके रख दिया, आपने अपने आप को ही इतना सीमित कर दिया कि आप आगे और कुछ देख ही नहीं रहे हो, आप तो और कुछ और
Mm,
भी सीख
mm.
सकते हो। आपने वो आर्ट किसी और को सिखाया है, आप अपने
बिल्कुल।
आप को ही, you are being grateful to yourself that you have that and you're teaching that skill to somebody else। आपने अपने आप को confide करके रख दिया है, you know, that's how it is। and for and and only when you are able to अभी थोड़े पहले I said that, you know, looking at a flaw is important because you need to rectify that, you know।
Mm,
If you are stuck there, your life is not going anywhere, your objective in
mm,
your work is also not going anywhere। So
mm,
gratitude and empathy and you know, that whole confidence, all of this, your integrity, your personal values, all of these are very intersectional, you know। If
mm.
you have
बिल्कुल।
integrity, if you have empathy, if you have uh, positive communication, आप ना, you will see that you are grateful for all that is happening around you। कुछ ना कुछ आप
बिल्कुल।
उसको उसमें मिल ही जाएगा। And you very rightly said that you are not being grateful, you're not being grateful to anybody, and that anybody is also you।
You.
So all this discussion, Prashant, it's like coming back to the self, and it's beginning from the self, it's coming back to the self।
बिल्कुल। बिल्कुल, and you know that that was the whole the foundation of this conversation, that if you're not able to lead yourself, if you don't understand yourself, if you're not able to balance yourself, then how will you lead others? How will you balance other people? How will you provide others with something that you do not have? You know, that वो बैलेंस ही नहीं बनता ना, अगर आपके पास ही नहीं है तो आप दोगे कहाँ से,
Yeah,
right? And
exactly।
people are expecting that from you, but you don't have it. So I think our conversation, it's been more than an hour that we already spoke, Ankurita, and I think, you know,
Yeah,
very powerful conversation and very powerful message that you delivered to everybody here. I'm sure everyone who's listening now and in recording will agree and understand that if we don't understand how to lead ourselves, following these principles of integrity, confidence, empathy, communication, and gratitude, if you don't understand these elements, and these elements won't come to you unless you are high on self awareness, unless you are high on self reflection, and unless you practice the regulation of these things on daily basis, because as Ankurita said, they won't just come to you कि आपने आज हमारी ये conversation सुन ली, आपने कोई किताब पढ़ ली, कोई वीडियो देख लिया, and you are a changed person. You will have to make a conscious effort every single day, become aware of it, and work on that regulation of these things. And with time, you will falter, you will fall. There'll be days that you'll be like, oh my, this is not going to work for me. But you need to pull yourself back and get back on track. And that's how, you know, you will progress. The graph will go up, it will come down, it will go up, it will come down. But in the end, in due course of time, you'll see that, you know, on an average, it's going up and you're getting better. I think that is what we wanted to deliver, Ankurita, and I think the conversation was very fruitful, very engaging, and very thoughtful. So thank you so much for that. Any other thoughts that you have in your mind that you would like to share with us, which will be valuable?
as you said, you know, that graph up and down, the fall. To conclude, just I want to say one simple thing. I think it's a cliched statement, but it's a very important thing, you know,
Hmm.
which I have done personally in my life many a times. Learn how to accept your failures in life. Every day comes with a different set of challenges, and you might end up failing in what you are out to achieve, you know। It could be in terms of being self-aware, it could be in terms of reflection, regulation। सबसे difficult part is regulation, I guess। awareness तो फिर भी you know who you are, what you are, you know, if you keep talking to yourself, वो answers भी मिल जाएगा, reflect भी आप कर लोगे। But the most difficult part is regulation, and वो
Mm,
regulation में ही सारा catch है। That's the, I think, trickiest part, and that is the most important part also, you know।
mm,
And here failure is a part of it, but learn to
Mm.
accept failures. I have learned to accept my failures. I am still learning, and there are times when I feel that, this is, like you said, this is not working, this will not happen. Somebody,
Mm.
again, it comes back to reflection, again it goes back to awareness. This whole cycle continues, and good days
Mm.
are there, bad days are there, both are equally important. And in at the end of this journey, I think somewhere everyone will find that there's a evolution that is happening very organically, and this
Mm.
evolution will establish your own self in anything that you do. Be it you
Mm.
as an individual or as a professional, as a leader. Again, leadership is all about individuals only. Wherever you are, whoever you are leading, be it you or a group, I mean, of your followers, whoever it is. I think it's an organic process of accepting yourself with your flaws, with your being human is the most important element of you as an individual or as a leader. That's my thought. I
Mm.
would have, if you allow me, I could have spoken, as you know, that I would have spoken on and on, and I don't even know half of the things if I'm making sense. But this is what I believe in my own life, personally, professionally, and this is all I have to
Sure,
share.
thank you for that, and it definitely made sense. I'm glad you did, and very powerful and thoughtful pointers that you mentioned. And again, if people do not reflect on these things, if they do not try to regulate these things, it's of no use. Just information, just knowledge will not help. Knowledge only takes you to a level of awareness. आपको लगता है कि अच्छा ठीक है यार, हाँ सही लग रहा है. But after that, if you don't reflect on things that we said, if you don't start regulating by practicing them on every single day, and जैसा आपने कहा कि एक जर्नी है, ऊपर नीचे होगा और सबके साथ होता है, right? That's part of being human. But once you know कि वो ऊपर नीचे होता है, then it becomes easier for you, because when you fall down, you know कि यार ये तो एक process है, मैं तो गिरूंगा, मुझे पता ही था. I just need to get up and go for it again. But if you don't know it,
Understood.
then you feel like a failure. But if you know कि गिरना is a part of it, then you just get up and keep moving, saying that ये तो होना ही था. So,
True.
great conversation, Ankurita. Thank you so much for such powerful insights, and thank you so much for your time. That too on a Saturday evening. I'm sure there are a lot of things that are waiting for you. So, thank you for that, and thank you everyone in the audience. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for the effort that you put in helping me make this show better. The comments that you give, the messages that you send. That's what makes it powerful. And thank you for everything. So, you guys have a great weekend. Saturday and Sunday ahead. And I'll see you next weekend with another amazing guest, bring in some more perspectives of leadership and life on it. And please put in comments if you want some more conversations to happen on this show that are not happening right now. We're more than happy to take that feedback and bring those conversations forward. So till then, take care. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next week. Thank you, Ankarita. Take care.
Bye. Thank you, Prashant.